My name is Anna. For many years, my life was quiet, small, and closed. I lived in a little town near the coast, in a gray house with blue windows. Every morning, I walked to the bakery where I worked. I baked bread, cleaned the counters, and sold loaves to the people who came in. The days were always the same. The smell of flour and sugar stayed in my clothes. The sound of the oven timer was my daily rhythm. I told myself I was content. I did not need friends. I did not need love. My world was safe, even if it was silent. I avoided long talks. I avoided looking too deeply into people's eyes. I thought if I stayed quiet, nothing could hurt me. But sometimes, when I walked home in the evening, I looked at the families near the harbor. Children laughed. Couples held hands. Their voices floated in the air like music. I told myself I did not need that. But inside, a small ache lived in me. One morning, the bell on the bakery door rang. I looked up, and a stranger walked in. He was tall, wearing a dark coat with rain on his shoulders. He looked around slowly, then stepped closer to the counter. His voice was gentle when he spoke. "Good morning. Do you have anything fresh?" I pointed at the bread still warm from the oven. He smiled faintly, thanked me, and paid. His eyes met mine only for a moment, but something inside me shifted. I told myself it was nothing, just a customer, just a man passing through. But the next day, he came again, and the day after that. At first, he bought only bread. Then he started asking small questions. "How early do you wake up to start baking? Do you like working here?" His voice was calm, his smile quiet. I answered with short words, careful not to say too much. But he did not push. He only listened. Days turned into weeks. I began to expect the sound of the bell. I noticed when he came later than usual. I noticed the way his hands always carried books, as if he read wherever he went. One morning, he placed a small paper bag on the counter and said, "For you." Inside was a cookie from another bakery across town. He smiled and said, "Even bakers should taste something sweet once in a while." I did not know what to say. No one had given me something so simple, so thoughtful, in a long time. That night, I kept the bag on my table, unable to throw it away. His name was Michael. He told me one morning while sipping coffee near the counter. He had moved to town recently to work at the library. That explained the books. He said he liked quiet places, the smell of the sea, and mornings with rain. I listened. His words stayed in me like little seeds finding soil. I began to change without noticing. I cleaned the bakery more carefully before he arrived. I brushed my hair longer. I even tried a new scarf. When the bell rang and it was not him, my heart sank. When it was him, the air felt lighter. One evening after closing, I walked by the library. Through the window, I saw him inside, arranging books. He looked calm, surrounded by shelves. I almost kept walking, but then he looked up and saw me. He raised his hand, smiling softly. I froze, then waved back. My chest felt warm. The next day he asked, "Do you like reading?" I hesitated. I had not read much since school. Books felt too heavy, too full of emotions I wanted to avoid. But I said quietly, "Sometimes." He handed me a small novel from his bag. "Maybe try this one," he said. "It is gentle." That night, I sat by my window and opened the book. The words were soft, like a whisper. I read slowly, and for the first time in years, I felt less alone. As weeks passed, Michael became part of my days. He came every morning for bread. Sometimes he brought me tea. Sometimes he shared a line from a book. Sometimes he only smiled, and that was enough. But one evening, as we stood outside the bakery, he asked, "Do you ever feel lonely?" The question cut deep. My throat closed. I wanted to say no. I wanted to say I was fine. But I looked at his eyes and saw kindness there. For the first time, I admitted softly, "Yes, sometimes." He did not reply. He only nodded, as if he understood. That silence was heavier than words, but it did not scare me. It felt like he had opened a door I had kept locked for too long. I began to wait for him, not only at the bakery, but in my heart. I told myself he was just a stranger, but he was not a stranger anymore. He was the one who noticed me. He was the one who gave me warmth when I thought my life was only cold. One morning, he came later than usual. His smile was softer, but his eyes looked tired. He bought bread, then paused before leaving. "I might not come tomorrow," he said. My heart jumped. "Why?" I asked quickly, more quickly than I meant. He smiled gently. "I have to travel for a while, just for work." That night, I sat with the book he had given me. The bakery felt too quiet. I touched the scarf around my neck and whispered to myself, "Please come back." The next day, he was gone. The bell did not ring. The counter stayed empty. I told myself it was fine. He was just a customer. But I knew it was not true. Days passed. Each morning, I looked at the door. Each evening, I walked by the library. His absence felt like a hole inside me. I missed his voice, his smile, his quiet presence. One evening, as I walked near the harbor, I sat on a bench alone. The sea moved slowly. The gulls cried above. For the first time, I admitted the truth to myself. He was the stranger who opened my heart. And now, even if he never came back, I could not close it again. I looked at the horizon and whispered into the air, "Thank you, Michael." The sea did not answer. The bench stayed empty. But I no longer felt completely alone. Because once, a stranger walked into my bakery, and without knowing, he gave me the gift of feeling again. And that is the end of my story. Thank you for listening. If it touched your heart, please subscribe, like, and share this video. Write a comment too. I love to read your thoughts. Thank you for your support.